UK Zoom people. Hope you're all well. Welcome if you're a first timer. Welcome if you're a 100th timer. We've just got a simple rule here, and that's to inspire and be inspired. And I'm grateful to be joined by three member speakers today. We have Martin Dodd, we have Kris Amliwala, and we have Craig Palfrey. If I could just do a bit of housekeeping, just to give our speakers the correct space. When they are speaking, can I ask that we all go on mute and we all just click off our cameras just so that they have the space and we're not looking at someone making some toast in the background or getting changed for a meeting. Okay. So yeah, in the spirit of Richard Bach, we are all teachers, learners, and doers. And by that, I mean, we've got some really great speakers, some really successful speakers. They're not saying, oh, look, how great am I? What they are saying is, look, this is what I've done. And some are literally holding up a torch for us. So hopefully they'll shine some light on our way. What else would I like to tell you? Well, let's just jump in, shall we, and introduce our first speaker, Martin Dodd. Martin is speaking to us today about imposter syndrome, which is actually hilarious on a couple of levels because he has an uber successful business. His wife has an even more successful business. He's just spent a month in the Caribbean swimming with sharks, sailing boats, going full James Bond, and yet he's going to be talking to us about imposter syndrome. Then we're going to have Kris coming on and talking about how being an RLP has actually revolutionized his business and those meaningful client conversations. And then we're going to have Craig Palfrey speaking to us about the many hats that he wears, how he's gone beyond the money from, just being a financial advisor to having this portfolio business. So hopefully there's a lot of wisdom and there's a lot of goodies for you there. So our first speaker, Martin Dodd. He's a veteran of 40 years in the world of financial advice. Martin has done every role in financial advice from T-boy to financial planner, dealing with imposter syndrome often, and why perhaps you are not alone. Martin, over to you.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. And in true imposter syndrome style, I have no idea whether this subject is going to land with you guys, but I'm just going to spend 15-20 minutes with you. And Michael, keep me on time here because I've never ever delivered this presentation before and I really don't know whether it's going to land, but bear with me. Hopefully you're going to get some takeaways. So imposter syndrome is my subject. This came about, this talk, by a chance conversation with another MDRT member not so long ago. I felt it was only me, but the member said, you need to talk to our members and other advisors about that because I think you'll find that other people may be in the same boat. So why do we want to talk about it? Well, I, being selfish for a moment, want to talk about it because there's no doubt about it that I do have imposter syndrome. And I mentioned to my team in the office yesterday that this is the talk that I was going to be delivering today. And one of them said, well, you don't have imposter syndrome. And I said, well, I do. And she said to me, well, I'm glad you said that because I also have imposter syndrome. So I'm hoping that this lands with you guys and we can perhaps expand this conversation outside of the room after I've gone through my presentation. So I think the first place for me was recognizing that I do have imposter syndrome and why I have it. So I've done a lot of thinking about this over the last few weeks. This is not research, this is not read from a book, this is just my own thoughts. So they may only apply to me or they may apply in part to you or completely. So the first thing that came to my mind really was that success leads to loneliness. when we begin our journeys as financial advisors, we obviously have high hopes of success because we wouldn't do it otherwise. We want to be successful for our clients, and we also want to be successful for ourselves. But what that does often lead to is loneliness. We're on our own. We tend to work in silos. Even if we're working in a larger organization, we work in our office with our team, just with our clients, and that can be a lonely journey at times. In fact, a lot of the time. The other thing that I have faced is I resist recognition for what I do in terms of the success that I create for my clients. When people in the past have said to me, thank you for doing such a great job, I've personally found it quite difficult to take that as a compliment and speak back to those people, thanking them for the fact that I've done a good job for them. So I've had to really train myself to accept the fact that I am recognized for being successful in terms of helping my clients. Linked to that is quite bizarre, really. We reject recognition, but we also crave recognition at the same time. And it's an internal thing with me. Of course, I would like to be recognized, but if somebody says, oh, you've done a great job, Martin, it's very easy for me to say, oh, well, yes, that's just what I do, which is rejecting that compliment. So part of that imposter syndrome is rejecting the fact that people actually want to say, thank you, you've actually done a great job. Taking a slightly different turn on imposter syndrome here is I am driven to keep performing, and I suspect a lot of people that are on this Zoom call today are driven performers, and that in itself could be impacting the fact that I'm exceeding where I perhaps ever thought I was going to be when I wanted to start that journey in success. So I'm very driven to perform. And of course, as a true Englishman, as a true Brit, I hide my feelings often. I share my feelings with very few people. And that, in my mind, is just adding to this imposter syndrome. But I've left what I think is the most important factor in recognizing imposter syndrome to the end. And I believe in me, and I think it probably reflects in the wider advisor community, that we are compelled to stretch ourselves. And when we stretch ourselves, we get into an uncomfortable place. All of those combining thoughts of mine lead me to the view that I find it difficult at times to accept the success that I not only achieve for my clients, but also for myself. So you might say, what do I do about it, if anything? Now, there may be people in this call today that think, okay, interesting listening to Martin talk about imposter syndrome, but either I don't have imposter syndrome, or if I have, I don't want to deal with it, don't think I need to deal with it, don't think it's remotely important. So in my mind, and I'm rattling through my slides here, if we want to explore a bit further, and I appreciate that it is quite an introverted thing to think about, is to first of all recognize and accept that we may have imposter syndrome, and it's not just us. Lots of us, if we do think we've got imposter syndrome, we're not on our own. I firmly believe that I'm not the only one. So for me, I've had to recognize and work on accepting it. And I don't wish to get all wokey here for a moment, but I think it's a relevant piece for successful financial advisors to work on if they want to step up to the next level, because imposter syndrome could hold us back. The second element that I have spent time thinking about is competition. And it's not competition that you may think, because we are not competing with anybody else. Our only competition is us. I don't think we should be competing against the advisor down the road or the advisor that we know in MDRT that is hugely successful, although they should be our inspiration without doubt. But we should recognize that we are not competing with anybody other than ourselves. Not easy, because I do look up to many MDRT members, and in part, at moments, I think, I wish I was like them. I wish I could do what they do. But that's why we're in this room. We're all here to learn off each other. And part of my process for dealing with imposter syndrome is, from time to time, take a moment to look back. And this is part of accepting our success and self-congratulation, which I don't mean that in any conceited way. I mean, it's important at times to look back and see where our journey began and how far we've traveled, because we're all very good at looking at the horizon. Because the horizon, if we haven't worked it out yet, is always the horizon. It is always in the distance. So sometimes we should stop, turn around, look back where we've come from, because for most of us, of a certain age, shall we say, have achieved incredible things with our clients, which has then led to our own success. And for the younger members coming up behind us, well, I'm sure you've achieved some great things already. So don't just keep looking at the horizon. It's important to look back to recognize how much we've achieved for our clients. And as my great mentor said to me, bit of an aside here, look after your clients and they will look after you. So your success in your clients will be mirrored in your own success. And of course, part of looking back and seeing what we've achieved is to take time occasionally to celebrate our success and not keep looking at that horizon, because that horizon is always going to be miles in the distance. So however it is that you like to celebrate, in my opinion, important to take time, however large or small it may be, to celebrate. And just to throw it in there, my travels of February were not really a celebration, although you could look at it like that. To me, that was just taking some time out to do the things that I really enjoy doing. Not getting eaten by sharks being one of them. And finally, communication. I think in true style of a British citizen, and I'm saying that deliberately because I know we've got some Welsh people in the room and we may have some people from other parts of the United Kingdom, is if we don't communicate with the people around us, particularly in this community, how we feel, then we are having to hold on to that imposter syndrome. So if you are in one of your study groups and you're building some great connections with the people in your study group, they are possibly the people that you can share your feelings with regards to imposter syndrome. Because I have a hunch, I don't know, but I suspect this is the case. I suspect most people on this call today will have some element of imposter syndrome. So if you can communicate with the people that you know, like, trust about your feelings, then that's perhaps a way to overcome or deal with. I don't think you can ever quite overcome it, but part of the way you can deal with the fact that you may feel an element of imposter syndrome. And I'm just going to turn to my last slide, because this is the essence of what we are here for. and that is to share our ideas and thoughts. That is what MDRT is about. That is what study groups are about. And even if this subject is not entirely relevant, I've shared it with you. I've shared my ideas and I've shared my thoughts. So hopefully you've taken some value from what I've had to say today. And if any of you feel like reaching out to me on this subject because you feel that you've got nobody to talk to, I'm quite happy to have a conversation with any of you guys because it affects me. So if it affects me, I'm pretty sure that it affects a few other people in this room today. And that's it from me. So I've got to work out now, Kris, how to stop sharing.
Looks like you've already done it.
Okay, fair enough.
Don't
So
stop sharing, Martin. Never stop sharing. Thank you so much. You're the nearest thing we've got to Tom Cruise in this community. So if Tom Cruise is thinking, who am I when I'm not Tom Cruise? Hopefully there's a great lesson for us all. So thanks for the share. And yeah, the horizon will always be the horizon. So let's keep getting after it, but not forgetting where we came from. Thank you, sir. Okay, moving on. Next up on our schedule for you busy people, we've got another busy man himself. So we've got Kris Amliwala coming up now. Kris believes that personal finance is way more personal than finance. A belief reinforced as a registered life planner that has been the foundation of how he's been advising since 2018. Light the torch for your clients and watch their alignment to your advice grow. Kris, over to you.
Thank you, Michael, for the introduction, and thank you, Martin, for being so open and honest. So yes, I'm Kris Amliwala, 3-year MDRT member, Chartered Financial Planner and Fellow. So I'm going to start off with a big personal statement to say that if I didn't become a registered life planner back in 2018, I probably wouldn't have stayed as a financial planner. I might have even just stayed as a power planner or even left the profession. But that's because I felt a disconnect with advising clients back then. I had the technical knowledge and I was just advising people on their money. It was like making people that had have more zeros on the end of their bank balance. I was like, well, what's the point of that? Where's the alignment to their wealth? And because financial planning, I believe now, is very much a combination of art and science, all I was doing back then was just the science part. But in reality, if you've got your one financial situation and you're presenting it to 10 different advisors, you'll get 10 different answers and they'll probably all be right. But which one of those right answers resonates with you the most? So the art piece was missing, and that's where the registered life planning part came in, because that helped align the client's intrinsic motivation to the creativity of financial planning with their money. And I see that as allowing clients not to be the richest person in the graveyard, because what's the point in that? But it's also goals-based planning and helping that alignment between their wealth with their time to help them be better in whatever definition that is for them and achieve their goals sooner. That will include time, location, and financial freedom, which is the ultimate flex. It's also the MDRT's whole person concept, but not just applying it to us, but applying it to our clients and their lives for their hopeful success. And whilst I do have a lot of time for George Kinder and the life planning process, I really believe the key to my positivity and my bold statement at the start is to how the Kinder process has been integrated into my advice process. So starting off, the Kinder process is attending a 2-day course, attending a 5-day residential somewhere, and then completing an online mentorship, generally over 6 months, where you complete a few case studies in a group session and you take feedback and give feedback on your peers in the same cohort. Like with most training, I would recommend, if you could, attend all of those trainings in person rather than online. But as the Kinder Institute is global, you do have access to anywhere, and the online trainings do come in. It's big in the US, Netherlands, UK, and Australia. But if you're anywhere else, then online could work. And once you've completed all three of those sections, the 2-day, the 5-day, and the coursework, you get the prestigious trademarked RL3 designations, which you can put after your name. And by going through the whole course, you become a pro, not just at asking the famous 3 questions, but also inspiring people to light their internal torch, which is basically linking the client's intrinsic motivations to their money, and most importantly, for them to take action on your advice. How many times have we been there? We give the best recommendations that will help the clients get to their goals, but then they don't do it. And it just seems illogical. Like, this is the plan. You've told me what you want. I can help you get there. You have to do this, this, and this. And they never do it. And this stops that happening. This puts the power in their hands, the motivation for them to take the action to do the homework that you're giving them. Now, the Kinder process is famous for the 3 questions, but also for the 5 stages in the evoke process. And evoke stands for exploration, vision, obstacles, knowledge, and execution. And whilst this could be 5 separate meetings with the client, I don't think it will be logistically or economically feasible to have 5 separate meetings. And whilst the Kinder process isn't a dictation for us to follow, it has been a refined process that has been tweaked over many years and actually probably many decades to deliver the most effective version of itself. But I have adopted the process. For any prospect, it is an initial chat of probably 30 to 60 minutes just to get to know them, which is at no cost to them. A discovery meeting, which is at least an hour, maybe an hour and a half, hopefully in person at my offices, so I can control the environment, where we complete terms of business and we complete soft facts questions only via exploration and vision. So the first 2 parts of the 5 questions. The next meeting at a later date is a cash flow meeting, and my personal choice is Voyant, where we design their strategy, and that is where we talk obstacles. So the 3rd part in the evoke process, we create a big vision and we collect hard facts because we cash flow plan live with them. The next meeting is deploy, where I present my recommendations and knowledge, which is the K in the evoke process. And this generally is fairly obvious for me, and I do deliver that sometimes on the back of the design cash flow meeting. It's obvious because my niche is working with owner managers of successful family businesses in their 50s planning for retirement. So it's a repeated process that I follow every time I see a potential client. But if it's not, I will save deploy, where I present my knowledge in the last meeting, where I present that knowledge and also the execution part. And that will include my suitability report, illustrations, and paperwork to proceed. That way I can get the process after the initial chat down to 3 or potentially 4 meetings. And that I don't feel is too fast for the client to follow. It's not too slow because we have to do business at the end of the day. And with the commitment at the start of the first meeting where they have the terms of business signed, they're committed to go through the whole process, which they have no idea what it's going to be. But it keeps them tied into the process, coming back whilst we're waiting for seeding scheme providers to send information back, them to ask the accountant for X, Y, Z, or whatever they need to. It just allows the process to follow and for the client to flourish through that. And it's the Kinder process, the evoke method is so different to anything else that I've come across. It's so powerful. And what gave me a great deal of confidence at the beginning of my journey back in 2018 was that when potential clients were interviewing me and other advisors, I stood out. Like, if we had some building work around the house, a client might interview 2 or 3 different builders and get 3 different quotes. At that point in time, as my confidence was growing, I had one particular lady that stood out in my mind. She interviewed 5 different advisors, had 5 different quotes. I wasn't the cheapest, but she chose me because I was the only advisor that talked and wanted to really know about her goals and plans for the future first before I cared about or even asked about how much money she had, how much she's got in the back, or what property portfolio she had in the background. Equally, I've had big, burly grown men in their 50s, when asked these questions, break down in tears in my meeting room. Not sad tears, happy tears, tears of relief, where they felt the verbal pressure come off their shoulders because they could share it with somebody that they felt they could generally trust in, believe in, and had their best interest behind them. And with the general process of, well, let's learn more about you, your goals and plans for the future. We'll then cash flow plan it to help you get there. And then if needed, make that product recommendation. The clients feel genuinely there's no bias, there's no alternative agenda. It is, yeah, Kris is recommending ISA provider B out of all the options that he can, because that one is the right one for me and my future plans. It's putting the client's goals, plans, at the center of everything we do. And that is, it's definitely treating customers fairly and everything else that we have to do in the space to be safe. I collect feedback from vouched for on my after my initial meeting. And a lot of that feedback is so different to what it would have been otherwise. Clients come back saying they've had such positivity, it's not what they were expecting, and they're really energized to go forward. Some of my clients have been burned badly by product seller type advisors in the early 90s, late 80s, and they lost it. They had a distrust with the profession as financial planning as it is now. And by going through this process, I've rebuilt their trust in the profession, and they've come on board and given me their whole wallet worth of wealth. They've referred other clients to me, and we've broken down some of the stereotypes that it was in our profession from the past. With that feedback from vouched for, I use it and I share it as social proof, and that's that's helped to keep the wheel spinning, attract new clients, new referrals, and keep the business growing. And also after all these years, touch wood, I've never had a client leave me. I've never had a client complain. And I generally believe I've earned more money than I would have done otherwise, because clients don't just give me their ISAs or pensions, they give me their whole life savings. And they also refer more of their clients to me more warmly, and I don't have to ask for that referral. So through the Kinder process, we light people's torches. We motivate them. We extract that motivation in tangible ways via questions they've probably never even been asked before or never even thought about. And we note that down. We make that as their plan and then align their money to fit that and go all around that only. That process is lighting the torch. So my challenge to you all is to help light the torch in whichever way you can for the next 5 prospects that you see. Help them flourish and see the difference between the quality of life that they can achieve with your new goals for them. And for those yet to come across George Kinder, the Kinder Institute of Life Planning, or maybe even those that haven't even dabbled in the 2-day course yet, I believe there's a new partnership with Next Gen Planners coming in the autumn this year. So there is a great opportunity for the Kinder Institute to come more into the UK space. So feel free to discover a little bit more there. I wish you all of the best in your journey with life planning, and I'd be more than happy to have a call or a chat with anybody before you feel committed to maybe part with your money and try the 2-day or 5-day courses. Thank you for your time, everybody. Have a great day. But Craig is fast.
Hey, thanks so much, Kris. I'm resisting the temptation to be one of those big burly 50-year-olds crying, but if it was appropriate, I would shed a few tears. I thought you threw down the challenge for us. You talked about helping people flourish, which you know, everyone on the call here, if you're hearing or part of conversations like this anywhere else in the UK, then please let me know. But, you know, we are members of MDRT for a reason, and it's because we have these, you know, meaningful conversations. People are talking about some really personal stuff. Some people talking about assets and value add to their business. And that leads us nicely on to adding other businesses to your business. So without further ado, thanks once again, Kris. I'd like to welcome Craig the Penguin Pulfrey to the stage. And rather than this being a talking heads for everyone, we thought we'd do something a bit different and have more of a chat, more of a conversation. So, Craig, are you dialing in from Cardiff?
I absolutely am, mate. Absolutely am.
Hey, welcome. So,
Morning.
Craig, as many of you know, needs no introduction. Craig has been a long-time member of MDRT. He's been in the profession for 23 years. But Craig, why don't you tell us a bit about you and perhaps a lesser-known fact that people perhaps won't know about you?
Let's do the boring stuff first. So yeah, 23 years in the profession, 18 years MDRT member. Started in compliance for a small family business to start with. Then ended up as a financial advisor, worked for a few nationals, then a local business called St. James's Partnership, interestingly enough. Then founded Penguin in 2010. Thank you everyone for your kind wishes on our 15th last month. I really appreciate that. Little known fact, I was on the Crystal Maze as a kid for a Christmas special. And I've also been on a special show of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. And that was when I realized being a nosy git and keeping your eyes on everything paid off, because we were stood out in the car park getting ready to go into the studio, the 10 of us who were going to be in the fastest finger first. And I happened to look inside the Mikey, you know what it is, the AV booth or whatever it is, where they're doing all the lighting and all the, and I happened to see the answers for the questions for the fastest finger first. So yeah, I got into the chair. So yeah, I managed to win 20 grand. It wasn't the 1632, it was a different format then, but yeah, I managed to win 20 grand. So
okay, well, thank you for that. And Craig, we've had a few messages. People are a bit concerned that you might be being held hostage somewhere. Are you in a box?
we've got like this little half soundproof booth that we had put in the office when we had the refurb done. So yeah, it looks like a little prison cell, but no, it's like a little half soundproof booth. So I'm not bugging everyone.
Okay, nice. Okay, well, let's just jump into some of these questions a la Parkinson mode. So I have first question for you. Describe why just being a financial advisor wasn't enough for you, and how you've been able to write the levels of business you have and do and excel in financial advice, but then also in wills and trusts and at Penguin Law, joint ventures, and all the offshoots to your portfolio business. How'd you do it? Why'd you do it?
I didn't set out to build different businesses. I think I set out to solve a problem, and that problem was client disappointment. I'm sure everyone on the call can relate to, early in your career and even now, you see clients let down by accountants who don't plan proactively, and by solicitors who make the process harder than it needs to be. You trust one of these people, one of your clients, and then they suddenly stop communicating with you and them, especially with things like probate. And I think as advisors who care, I think we do everything we can for our clients. And then when we have to pass them into the hands of another professional, we're hoping they deliver the standard of service that we deliver, or we think we deliver, or we expect. And I think one moment really crystallized it for me. I had a large client. I remember sitting up, I remember traveling to Bath back in the old days. I'm going really way back. And I'm sitting in their house, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, still in the evening, back when, I'd go anywhere to see anyone, to help anyone. And they went on to have a successful business really quickly. And I'd worked really hard to win them and keep them. And I'd been nagging them for a while to move to what I was perceiving as a better accountant, because as they were growing, I think they need more help. And I was trying to control that journey with a Cardiff accountant. And then one day I suddenly get this email from them. They've jumped to a new accountant in Bath, and they asked me to go and join the next meeting they were having with them. And I said, yeah, fabulous. Sounds like a good idea. So great, we're going to get someone proactive, maybe even start talking to them about JVs and stuff. And I turned up a reception way before, how easy the internet was to check things out in advance. I probably could have done something, but it was before I'd even thought of these things. And I was sat in their reception waiting for the clients to turn up. And on one side of the room, they had these leaflets for the accountant's brand IFA. And on the other side, they had one with the accountant's brand and their solicitor at Armand. And I was like, bugger, we're playing defense here. That was my sort of light bulb moment. I thought, well, I know I'm not going to lose the client today, because I'm confident I was, more than happy with all that we'd done. And there was nothing they could catch me out on if that's what they were going to do. But I thought one day I'm going to lose these clients to that accountant, because the accountant's got control of every bit of maths. And I did end up losing the client about 2-3 years ago, and it was kind of a mutual partner for various reasons that are not relevant for today. But that idea stuck with me. And then I heard Carl Atkin at MDRT in Toronto 2014. So Gary Metcalf had nagged me to go back to MDRT because I sort of didn't attend the annual meeting for a couple of years. And I went to Toronto, I think 2014 was Toronto, maybe 2015. And Carl Atkin had this session about how to turn the 10 marketing frogs into princesses. And at day number 7, I suddenly sat up because he said, who in the room gets referrals from accountants? And well, I think he called them, they called them something else over there, CPAs or something they call them over there. And a whole bunch of hands went up in the room. And he said, how many of you get regular referrals from accountants? And nearly every single hand went down. And he just talked about how they had the same problem. So what they did is they start buying accountants as a way to build a stronger IFA business. And I thought, that's bloody genius. That lit a fire in me. I remember thinking that was the best takeaway. I'm glad I went back. That was it for me. And I pursued it for about, God, must have been 2 years. I had a couple of good accountant conversations going about maybe buying part of their client bank, acquiring them. But unfortunately, me being me, I actually inspired them to go again and bloody sales. Both of them in the next 2-3 years went on bought their own extra practice, and neither of them sold to me. And I was like, oh, bollocks. Okay, that didn't work. And then, oh, sorry. And then the same kind of thing happened with Penguin Legal. I got peeved off with this case I'd given someone for what should have been a simple probate. So I started trying to find a solution, and something landed on my lap. So I tried one model, but that didn't quite work. So I had to course correct with that. And I've just parted ways with the second version I tried. Some of you will be familiar with it. I won't drop names, but their standards they worked for a couple of years. In the last year or so, I noticed their customer service levels and their communication just fell off a cliff. I'm just about to try number 3. I'm still trying to get Penguin Legal right where I want it. So I suppose the lesson is, at first, you don't succeed. But I think building a financial advisory business is one thing, but I think building a ecosystem where clients can get everything under one roof is just another level. And it wasn't that I ever wanted to write more business. I think I just wanted to control the client journey, because I think when we control the journey, we can obviously control the outcome. As I think Kris is saying, when you control their life plans, you can get them to, you can control the outcome and be involved with every decision. I mean, all of us have got clients who phone us saying, I'm thinking of giving the kids some money. Can I afford it? Should I do this? And I was thinking, how can we get it all in one place? Because I think clients don't care whether they're dealing with an IFA solicitor or an accountant. I think they care about, is someone looking after my whole picture, and they want to make sure nothing is missed. So that's why we built Penguin Wealth. Penguin Tax Planning is nearly 20 years old as well. Well, because it was called something else pre-Penguin. Penguin Legal, as you say, we're pushing towards Penguin Accountancy, although I haven't quite worked that out just yet. But I think it's about owning the journey. So why isn't being a financial advisor enough for me? I think it's not that it isn't, but I don't think people think in silos. So if we can offer one piece of the puzzle, I think we're leaving the door open for someone else to complete it. So why not try to control the whole chessboard, I think. So yeah. Did that answer all the points in the question, mate? Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. And it is before the watershed, just to remind you. We have some very sensitive souls online, so please. Anyway, what 3 pieces of advice do you have to help us operate these separate businesses consistently, but also at a high level?
Firstly, it'd be, I think, as I just said, control the client journey. Don't just participate in it. Most advisors seem to refer clients to accountants and solicitors, hoping they'll deliver. But I think hope isn't a strategy when you can control the journey. So whether it's through partnerships, as you've mentioned it, I threw out the question on the MDRT family group a little while ago about joint ventures. Anyone got any experience? And then lo and behold, I met someone last week while we were at the MDRT PFS day who might be able to help with that. Or own your own firms, non-regulated. Penguin Tax Planning is a non-regulated firm. But I think if you can control that journey, you just ensure the consistency, your service standards, deeper client loyalty, especially with the trusts and wills stuff. I mean, knowing that, I think I said on the stage last week, when you're the 3rd phone call, call the ambulance first in case there's still a chance. Call the undertaker and then call us, call the financial planner, call the person in control of the journey. I think if you don't provide it, someone else will. And Solidus have been great for us on the value add with private client stuff. For those of you who aren't using Solidus, but I know there are other ones that help as well. And clients often ask about, when are we going to do accountancy? So I hope to solve that as soon as I said. Number 2, I think solve recurring problems by expanding your offering. If you keep seeing clients let down by outside professionals, then that should be your signal to take action. If you found a good one, keep hold of them. Make sure you're part of their succession plan, maybe. But if you can't find someone to help you solve the problem, then build the solution. I think if it keeps showing up, it's not a one-off. It becomes an opportunity for you, and then keep adjusting until you find the right model. As I say, the first version of Penguin Legal didn't work as planned, nor did the second. My first 2 attempts to buy an accountancy firm didn't quite happen. We bought an IFA practice last year. That worked fabulously well, so we're going to do that again going forward. I think just make sure you don't treat setbacks as failures. I take everything Martin said about the imposter syndrome. I certainly feel like I suffer from some of that, but I think when it doesn't go your way, don't see it as a failure, see it as learning. Thomas Edison, was it, Mike? You're probably good with the quote, who said, I had 40 or something silly attempts to work out how to do the light bulb or whatever. They weren't failures. Something like that. You
Yeah.
probably,
Yeah, it was Thomas Edison. It was a bit more than 40, but yeah,
yeah.
it basically, yeah, you've got to fail so many times to get your success, but failure is a process. It's not the end. Yeah.
Yeah, they're just adjustments, I think. So business models evolve. Persistency, I think, beats perfection. If at first you don't succeed, just change the approach and go again. And I think the right model exists for all of us. You just got to keep refining it. And I've still got this vision. I remember sitting with Michelle Hoskins. I don't know if she's on the call, but I remember sitting with Michelle again around 10 years ago. And when she pushed me really hard on what does the future like, I remember having sort of penguin wealth at the middle of a circle with all these hubs coming off it: accountancy, legal, estate agency. I even had travel on there. And actually, some of you know Richard, who organizes a lot of our MDRT travel. So they even set me up 8 years ago with a penguin travel email address. We marketed it once to clients. We didn't do anything with it. I sent the on clients in, but yeah, even to that level, I wanted it to be all part of a concierge service. And yeah, I keep refining it.
Nice. Okay. So what are your 3 a.m. moments? What wakes you up? What keeps you up at night?
I don't stay up worrying about whether we're writing enough business next month or whether the markets are moving against us. I think that's all the transactional stuff. I suppose what really keeps me up is, are we building something that adds value, adds something that will last, gets people talking about us. And I didn't realize I was thinking this way until I read Traction by Gino Wickman. I know Traction's been mentioned on a couple of speakers on these calls over the last 12, 24 months. So, guys, if you haven't read Traction by Gino Wickman, I would recommend it. It was a great book and a game changer for me. And I think it helped clarify how I was thinking. And that caused me some 3 a.m. moments when I read that book, as I started thinking of this stuff. But I suppose I think about, will penguins still be thriving in 20, 30 years, or does it all fall apart if I step away? How do I make sure it doesn't? Have we built a culture that outlives me? Have we created something that my team and clients genuinely see as indispensable? And I believe to a large extent that we have. You don't please everyone all the time, as we all know, but and I think it's about working hard today, then hopefully your business will stand the test of time. I suppose that's the challenge.
Okay, if I just expand on that a little bit, you've only got the same 168 hours in a week as we've got. You're kind of doing all this stuff, and the day job. How do you make sure you're kind of there for the family and have those kind of those Kodak moments with your team back home?
I mean, I don't count hours. I mean, I count impact on. There's been a lot of stuff in the last.
Say that again. Say that again.
I don't count hours. I count impact.
Thank you. Wow. Okay.
Hence why our bigger core focus. So for those of you who are used to Traction, the Vision Traction Organizer, one of the first things they ask you to start with is your core focus. And our core focus is to have educated 30,000 people by 2030. I think we're currently up to about 22,000. I can add another 50 today, hopefully. I have another 150 from last week. But how many people can we measure that we've added some kind of financial education to through our books, through our guides, through our talks? So yeah, I think impact for me, Mike. So some weeks are intense, some weeks are lighter. I had plenty of kid time when they were younger. I dropped them to school, picked them up most days, and then I worked around it. And the diary was around that. I had plenty of social time, plenty of trips. As we all know, with the MDRT trips, there's 2 of those a year, if nothing else, and the trip to London. Yeah, the wife.
Are you still doing your Disney cruises? Is that still?
My 18-year-old son is moaning that we're not doing one this year. Michael's going to have to start looking at what is still available for the year. He's moaning at 18, why aren't we doing Disney cruise this year? And I'm like, really, son? But so we might still do that. But the wife used to moan when I disappeared for an hour or 2 each day while we were on holiday. But I think I was starting to say, there's a lot of research now saying there's no such thing as work-life balance. It's life balance. And for me, work is a part of my life because I absolutely love it. And we do have the occasional argument over it, I suppose. But yeah, I'm not in this for the hours. I think I'm in it for the challenge because I love solving the problems, the ability to create, seeing an idea become a reality, and hopefully knowing it's making a difference. And then the freedom, because I never wanted to be in a position where I was just earning a living. It was making a bigger difference, I believe, from a young age. If you just saw people and helped people, the money would come. And I think we're all testament to that if we're here.
Wow. Okay. But Craig, what are your distractions? What's your Achilles heel? What are the obstacles? What holds you back from living this life, balance this life of yours?
I suppose he's trying to keep the energy, I guess. And that's why
How'd you do that?
Just making sure you hang around with good people as often as you can. I think attending this, I thought last Wednesday was fabulous, catching up with old friends, making some new faces, jumping off to the States for those of you who aren't coming in June. You're missing a massive opportunity to give yourself that shot in the arm. And if you're qualified to that level, come to the Top of the Table conference, because it's just you know, I love being around people in our profession. I think it's that shot on the arm that reminds you to keep going, I guess.
Wow. Okay. Craig, I've made a whole load of notes there. Thank you. And you know, a couple of questions, but it's amazing what comes out of it. And some of the stuff that is kind of just deep under your skin now. Like, you know, I don't count hours, I count impact. You know, the stuff that you throw away. I think pearls. Do you actually mentor for either Penguin or for MDRT? Do you have anyone that you have under your wing, or have you got
I'd like
time
to
for
think
that?
I'd like to think internally we're doing it. We're doing it all the time. And if anyone ever reaches out to us looking for a job opportunity, looking to talk about the profession, I always let the team put it in my diary and find the time. I did register with the PFS mentor scheme a couple of years ago, but nothing seemed to happen with that. I'm not sure how that was supposed to work. I've never got round to registering for MDRT, but I think like all of us, when you're at the main conference and you got your badges and your t-shirts on, then yeah, whenever someone asks, I want to get more focused on mentoring and guiding the next generation as I move into my 50s in a couple of years' time. But yeah, I'd like to think we're doing that with all the stuff we share generally.
Okay, Craig. And I've got just one quick question for you that Martin mentioned there about got to keep looking towards the horizon, you know, kind of building and the journey, but you also need to look back. When you're 65 and you're looking back, what are some of the things you'd like people to say about Craig the Penguin Palfrey?
I think one focus I've always had, Mike, is to not make it about not make it about me, make it more about the business, the brand. I try not to make it about me and all that we do with the external comms, internal comms. I know when it's something like this, you've got no choice, but I just want people to just say that, didn't we do a great job? Didn't we try to help? Didn't we make life easier for someone? Because none of this stuff, I was with a lady yesterday who's just lost her husband. And there's a bit of emotion in the meeting, as we've all been through, and just knowing that we're gonna, we offered to help with the probate, but the daughter was in the meeting, she'll do it herself. But she said to them, there's a trust in the will. What did you say? Well, when you've done it, come back, but there's no rush. And I just think those magic moments when you make a massive difference are what it's all about, when you're there to help someone through those tough times, or those life changing events. I want to look back. I want, on the old tombstone, just say, what would be the wording? Didn't they make an impact? Didn't they help? Weren't they great people? Weren't they a great business? Yeah, something.
The world is different because he was here.
Yeah, oh, there we are. I'll nick that one. Thank you, Michael. I'll take.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Well, thank you for sharing your magic moments with us, Craig. And I'm conscious that you're much sought after. You spoke last week. You regularly speak at MDRT. So hopefully we haven't kind of tied you out, and you'll keep coming back with new material. So thanks for your time, Craig.
Thank you.
Okay, now listen, bravo to all of our speakers. Martin Dodd, UK chair, freshly back and still suntan from the Caribbean. Thank you for Kris Amliwala for doing that deeper dive on what being a RLP is, how it's really enhanced his business and how it may enhance yours. Just to remind you, Kris isn't on commission. He's not saying do Kinder and we'll have a Christmas party. He's just saying it because it's made a difference to him. So in Craig's spirit about making a difference, that's why we show up for MDRT. We want to, I think the quote from last week from Benita Baxter was be great and make others great, which was the Sherpa Tenzing's line. He's the guy who obviously helped Hillary up Everest. So I like to think of us at MDRT, we're just Sherpas. And if we can help carry the load and if we can help your journey better, then we will. And thank you, Craig, again, for just spitting rhymes. You're the nearest thing we've got to Eminem. So you're spitting lyrics at us. You're dropping bombs. So thanks, Craig. Really appreciate that. What I'd like to do now is hand back the mic to our leader, Martin Dodd. Martin, I think it'd be really useful if we could, in the 13 or so minutes we've got left, perhaps say a few words about the MDRT UK Day in London. Also remind people that registration for Miami is open, and any other business. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Michael, and thanks to Craig and Kris. Great talks, prompt mind clearly, but excellent talks from both of you. So just a bit of housekeeping, really. Talk a little bit about Future Vision Day last week and where that goes in the future. For those that were there, I'm of the view from the feedback that we've had so far that it was a very well run event, not only in terms of how well it ran, but also the content. It's not easy to go to a UK event about financial services where you leave the room feeling inspired to go away and look after your clients even better than you were last week. But last week, even though it's our event, I feel very much did that. And you also got CPD of 5.5 hours, which in the first quarter of the year has got to be a great kick-off because you've only got to do another 30 hours. What we do face going forward with MDR Future Vision is that we need to fill the room next year with some more awesome speakers that want to share what they are doing with other advisors. This is something that is missing generally within the advisor community, is that we don't share. But I'm pleased to say that MDRT UK family does share and shares in spades. So my vision for Future Vision, pardon the pun, is that we go again next year with Future Vision 2026, and hopefully we can fill the room yet again with young, middle-aged, old, but all aspirational financial advisors, because we can all keep learning and do a better job by our clients. Moving on to MDRT memberships, obviously open. If you want to go to Miami, if you've not signed up, please do. If you're not sure about whether it's worth the investment to go to Miami, there are plenty of people on this Zoom call that will tell you that it is probably the best investment that they make in their business each year, even though it appears to be quite costly. It is not only what you get for being there and the great speakers that are there, but you get to spend the best part of a week with some of the very best and most innovative advisors in the UK. And it doesn't matter whether you're an IFA or whether you are tied to one of the other organisations, we're all one great big sharing family. So there is no division as far as MDRT UK is concerned in that respect, which from my perspective is hugely refreshing. One of the highlights of going to annual conference is our English night, which I don't know why we call that because we always have several Welshmen there, not to mention Kiwis, Australians, Americans and Canadians. But we have a celebratory evening on the Saturday night where we all get together, and I've been to many of these meetings over the years, and yes, we have a bit to eat and sometimes some of us have too much to drink, but it is always a place where we are sharing our ideas, our challenges, because don't forget, if we are imposters, we can talk about the things that are challenging us, which is, I might add, part of imposter syndrome. We all think it's just us that have got this problem. I can tell you straight, the problem that you are facing right now, somebody else is either in the middle of it, has it coming, or has already dealt with it. So when we do get together at these events, there is always massive takeaways, and we never know what we're going to get when we go. We just have to go with the belief that we're going to get something from it. And the likes of Craig would not have gone for 18 years if he didn't get anything from it. So there are probably people in the room that have never been. There are probably people that have been but think they're not going this year. And not wishing to overload how big a deal this is. Go and try it once, or if you've tried it before and you're not sure about it this year, come and join us again, because I'm sure you'll have a great time. It is Miami after all. One last thing about MDRT, as I came in as chair last year, my remit was to retain membership at the present of the levels that we had last year. Somebody is that Helen has not missed it. The 26th meeting from Helen. Congratulations on that. That's awesome. I've lost my train of thought now. What was I saying, Michael?
You were talking about your remit was to retain membership.
Retain membership. So when I became the UK chair, I felt that we potentially had a challenge to maintain MDRT membership in the UK, given the regulatory headwinds that we all face. I'm pleased to say that our membership this year is already higher than last year. So somebody's doing a good job somewhere. There are more of us wanting to be in this family. And I've met most of the people of the over 100 members of MDRT UK over the last 7-8 years. And there is always something to learn. So my remit from now onwards will be to grow the community, which is why we have open Zoom calls here now, where you don't need to be a member to join us. We just think that if you spend a bit of time with us, you might think you want to join our family. And that's my closing piece for this morning. We're 5 minutes close to the end, but Michael does have a question, so fire away, Michael.
Yeah, we've got just less than 6 minutes here, so I just wanted to have a good jumping off place for you all to talk about 4 minutes. That it was agreed in the world from since time immemorial that no one could run faster than a 4-minute mile. It was impossible. The greatest minds, the greatest doctors at the time said, no, you can't do it. If you've seen a film called Unbroken, the lead character there actually ran in the Berlin Olympics, and I think he did I think it was around 1936. He did 4 minutes 21 seconds. They were saying that's it. No one can beat that. No one can beat that. And everyone believed that. 4 minutes, that was the threshold, yeah, or if you like, the ceiling, the glass ceiling. However, this guy came along, Roger Bannister, and he ran the mile in 3 minutes 57 seconds. Okay, in spite of the world telling him he couldn't do it. Now that's really impressive, yeah, and I guess that's really what we're talking. That's the kind of Craigs of the world. That's the Kris doing something different. That's the Martin living this, uber fulfilling life. However, the beauty of the story isn't that Roger Bannister did it, is that once he did it, there were many. There was something like 30 people that broke the 4-minute mile once Roger Bannister had done it. And so in this kind of, the 4 minutes we've got left, what I want you all to think about, what's your 4-minute barrier that either the world is telling you can't do, or as Martin alluded to at the very start, that you're telling yourself you can't do. Because once you've done it, lots of people will follow you. So just think about what's your 4-minute barrier and how you can smash it this month and for the rest of your career. Over to you, Martin.
Thank you, Michael. I was just typing in the comments there. James has asked, where can I get more information from about the Miami trip? So you can go to mdrt.org. There's more information there, but you can also reach out if you've got the emails of anybody here. I'll just put my email address in here for anybody that may want it. If they want to reach out to me, quite happy to talk to anybody that hopefully I've typed that correctly. So if you want that, if you can just quickly extract that up there, drop me an email. We can have a chat about not only joining MDRT in the process there, but also how we go about getting to Miami and how that all works. So that almost brings us to the top of the hour. I'm pleased that we are finishing slightly ahead of the time, because there is a rule in MDRT. On time is late, early is on time. So in that vein, finishing early, I'm going to send you all off on your day. Hopefully you've got some ideas, some energy, and go out there and crush it, everybody.
Thanks all, excellent speakers.
Thanks, guys.
Great job, guys.
See you in Miami.
See you all soon.
Thank you.